Dark. I'm Gail, your hostess, person who talks, and I'm just going to be awkward for a few seconds while, everything queues up everywhere. So if you're watching this on the replay, please bear with me. And if you're joining live, this is, let's see if I can put things in the comments. Because I do actually, want to put information in. So while I'm thinking about that, tonight we are talking about all of the ways that we can feel uncomfortable, right? We can totally feel uncomfortable when different questions happen. This happens to be our topic. So we're fielding how to field tough questions, maintain your boundaries, and how to be generous with yourself without hurting yourself. And this is all around when we're working with other people to either just in volunteering in general, working in general, and or for me specifically for the legacy side is if you are working on a storytelling project with someone. And the reason this really came up for me is there's been a couple instances recently where there were just, there's been some highly inappropriate comments from people, and it's just, I find it all very irritating. So I wanted to address it because there are, I know this happens to other people in projects that I've run and in other things that I've done. It just sort of happens. And yeah, so that's why we're talking about this today, honestly. So I know it's out there. I know it happens. So this is really like not specifically a how-to. It is a how-to. There could be other ways that are better. So just keep in mind your audience, where you are as always, and in any place you are the expert as to who you're talking to, what the situation's like, and if these are tactics or strategies that you should be using. So as always, use your brain and just keep in mind that every situation is different and every person you talk to is different. So with that in mind, let's jump into the topic. So fielding tough questions and maintaining your boundaries with storytellers. Again, if you're not doing storytelling, just insert people you volunteer with or people you work with. But I'm hoping if you're watching this video that you're interested or you already are working with people to restore human dignity and give them more substance and work with them to tell their life stories in a variety of situations. If you feel like sharing those situations in the comments, feel free to do so. If not, PM me or just lurk and watch the video. Totally get that too. Okay, so honest and open conversation about how to spot these situations. So the situations we're talking about is that when we wind up in a situation where we're potentially uncomfortable, and sometimes it's wholly inappropriate. Now, if you're working with the elderly, that sweet grandma, she was a teenager once. She was in her early 20s. She was in her 30s. She, they're all people, and everyone has their thoughts. Everyone has their pieces in their brain, their personalities. And you may end up in a situation where you're talking about topics that, aren't really appropriate for public consumption. These can be, it could be drug related, it could be sex related, it could be religion, it could be any type of things that would make you uncomfortable, realistically. And what I'm here to tell you is that we can protect ourselves and hold our own boundaries without hurting the other person. So it isn't that we don't honor those moments that they had, those memories that they have, or the feelings they have. It's that it's not a conversation that needs to happen right at that moment. And that's okay. It's totally fine to say, something like, if it's something that was a trauma, I'm so sorry that happened to you, and refocus to something that's happening now. If it was drug related and it's not something that you have experience on or you're not comfortable with, then again, same idea, you know, like, wow, that was an interesting experience, how did it affect you? And that's a way to redirect the conversation. So this is all about how to redirect conversations and situations without escalating things. Now, sometimes things do need to escalate because there are instances where if we're working with someone who's um, older than we are, regardless of if we would consider them elderly, if they're older than we are, then we're potentially maybe going to be in a situation that's uncomfortable and in other ways. And you do not have to stay in that situation. I fully and wholly support people, women, saying, this is not a situation I want to be in, and I need to get out of it. And you need to do what you need to do to get out of it. So I wrote down calling in the reinforcements. If you're a volunteer, it's getting your volunteer coordinator involved. It's getting a staff member involved if you're on site somewhere, or just extricating yourself, and that's completely okay. I'm being kind of vague, just because Facebook is really weird about what we can and can't say about things. So if you want more information, or you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like this probably happened to me and I don't feel like I handled it right, please feel free to PM me, and we can have a little bit more of a more raw conversation. But it's just really giving yourself space to be able to say, yes, I'm volunteering. Yes, I'm giving my time. Yes, this is where I work. But you are also allowed to retain your own human dignity while holding space for theirs. And that you shouldn't have to give up your own autonomy and your own comfort level in the service of others or in your work for others. So how to keep rapport without losing yourself. This can feel really, really hard, and I get it. So really what I'm thinking about here is that that way of reframing the thought, reframing whatever they said, not ignoring it, but acknowledging it in a passive way, that allows them the space to think about it. They can have their moment, whatever it was, and then being able to move on to something more constructive, to move on to more neutral territory, to move on to something that will continue moving the conversation forward. So, just to recap, we were talking about fielding tough questions and maintaining your boundaries with storytellers, and recognizing moments that could potentially be where you're starting to feel uncomfortable and you're not sure what to do. If it's something you can handle on your own, great. If not, ask for help. Get someone involved. Have someone sit with you with that person until you figure it out. And just remember that even as we're volunteering, as we're working, as we're staff, you're going to be in sometimes high stress situations, and for some of you, probably a lot of high stress situations. And it's okay to want to protect yourself, and you can do that while still holding space for the other person. So this will be a article at some point, and I'll have probably a little more in-depth in the writing on a few of these aspects, and it's because this could be like a 40-minute long video. And I'm not doing that. So I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful evening, and I am planning to come back next week. We'll see how that goes. And I have missed chatting with everyone and doing these videos, so there will be more of them. But until then, feel free to go check out the blog. There is a new blog post on living creatively featuring a beautiful, wonderful woman named Ellen Palestrand, and you can go check out her work. She does amazing, amazing artwork, and I can't wait to share her with you. So If you would like to chat with me, you want to have a conversation on legacy, like on the platform together about anything that has to do with having conversations with others and figuring out how to connect with each other and interact with each other, I'm totally game. And if you'd the other things I'm doing are featuring things on the blog. So if that's something that you're interested in, PM me and we can chat and see where it goes. So, with that, I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful week. And until I see you again, happy writing.